We'll do breakout rooms again, and I have to upload the questions in the chat. So Leo's going to put you all online into groups of 3. And here in the room, we can do the same thing. Yes, 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes, so use it well. You might never forget it. Outstanding questions from from your conversations? Questions about the questions, or why don't I review a little bit just to make sure we're all kind of on the same page? And then the plan for today is to continue with the this method for generating bodhicitta, right? The equalizing and exchanging method of generating bodhicitta. So I'll explain step by step, and then we'll meditate on each step. Yeah. So looks like some of the people are not back in the room yet, Leah. Oh yeah, they're coming. Okay, there we go. I better repeat what I just said so they all hear. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Do you have any questions still that arose from your discussions? Especially the online people, the people here in person?
Yes,
Don't
I
see
have a
anybody.
question,
Okay.
Geshe-la.
Okay,
Before I
great.
forgot,
Mhm.
because the last question was interesting. How you feel that it's putting more interest on others, on benefiting others, help you to like how can it help you? And I was telling Asha that this is easy. Yeah, we all know that we need that to be a Buddhist. Be Buddhist, it's the first one of the first important things. But how can we not bypassing the our own feelings and just jump, because otherwise it will backfire.
That's
When
true, yeah. Yeah,
when
that's
you
true.
Hmm.
I think
So how can we?
I think the main thing is we have to recognize it has to, that, sort of putting others before ourselves and caring about others, we have to do it in a sustainable way, which means we have to do it from within, like taking care of ourselves and only kind of putting ourselves out as much as is actually, I don't want to say comfortable, is maybe a bit too soft, but as much as like is realistic for us, For example, um, there's a story, I mean, there's kind of it's like a parable from the Golden Light Sutra, which is a famous story about the Buddha's life. It's actually depicted around LMB, Land of Medicine Buddha. If you walk around, there's 2 different pictures of it and explanations of it, where the Buddha in a past life offered his body to a tigress, right? So the Buddha in a past life, he was a young prince. He had 2 brothers, and the 3 brothers were walking in a forest, and they came upon a tigress who was famished. She hadn't been able to get any food in many days, and she was starving to death. And she had 3 cubs, or actually she had 5 cubs. Yeah, she had 5 cubs, and she was contemplating like eating her own cubs in order to not die. And the prince saw this, and he decided to offer his body to the tigress, right? So then he had his brothers. He walked a ways and then said, "Oh, I have to go back for something." And then he goes back, and then he just lied down next to the tigress, but she couldn't even do anything to eat him. So then he found a broken piece of bamboo, and then cut his wrist open so the blood would flow, and then she licked the blood and then ate him, right? So like, and that's considered a great bodhisattva activity, that he accumulated a great amount of merit by offering his body to another sentient being. But like Shantideva says in his, Bodhisattva's way of life, like, but we can't do that. If we were to try to do that, we would just end up like screaming and dying in a horrific death. No, it would be a mess, right? And it probably wouldn't help our spiritual like development at all.
Mhm.
But what Shantideva suggests is like start by like letting mosquitoes bite you. Even His Holiness speaks about that. If a mosquito bites you, instead of killing it, at least don't kill it. Just if you don't want it to bite you, just blow it away and don't kill it. So that's like one start. And then if you can, even let one mosquito bite you and just have a little bit of your blood. Start that way. And there's a little pain, but that little bit of pain, like we can endure, and it's not going to be especially harmful to us. Of course, if you're in an area where there's malaria or something, then it may be a different story. But anyway, the idea is that when we are using our life, our time, our energy, our attention to serve others, we have to do so in a way that's realistic for us and for each of us. And depending on the situation, that's something different. Unrealistic means if it becomes quickly, in the short term or over a while, if it becomes something that we regret, that we feel
Mhm.
is not good for us, is like in the healthcare industry, there's a huge rate of burnout, among nurses and
Mhm.
doctors, because for many different reasons, but one is like they're being forced to care for others in a way that actually exceeds their capacity to care. So some deal with that in different ways. Some by becoming maybe, I don't know, quite uncaring in a way, but just doing it as his job. But and teachers also. It's another caring profession, like teachers, where if you're forced to give too much time and attention to others in a way that's not sustainable for you, then you burn out, right? And then it can
Mhm.
negatively affect your health, negatively affect your mind. You generate resentment, become kind of bitter and frustrated. So I think yes, like there is this ideal that we can completely devote our body and minds and our time and energy to serving others, and that's an excellent ideal. But we also have to see like what's realistic for us, and also what is actually beneficial. Because if we were to just, it doesn't mean the Bodhisattva ideal doesn't mean just like, I don't know, I'm going to go work in a diner for free and just like serve everyone coffee and pancakes and no charge or something like that. Like we have to be discerning about how we use our time and energy, because we have limited time and limited
Mhm.
energy. And what
Mhm.
what way of using our time and energy to benefit others is really beneficial, and our resources, our money and possessions as well, is really beneficial. And what way is like actually not so helpful for
Mhm.
people. So those are
Mhm.
all kind of things to consider.
Yeah, to be realistic.
Yeah, to be
Yeah.
realistic. Use common
Thank,
sense. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Let's go on to what the the continue for um learning about this method of generating bodhicitta. Um, Come on. There we go. So equalizing and exchanging self and others. Okay. So this method has five steps. So my main aim today. Oh, there's a new clock on the table. Okay. My main aim today is in the next hour to just briefly describe each of these steps, and then and guide you all in meditation on each of them. Um, yeah. So last week, just to remind you, last week we spoke about the benefits of equalizing and exchanging self and others. Essentially, the point is to reduce our selfish concern, our egotistic concern with just ourselves alone at the expense of caring about others, and increase our caring about others. Because paradoxically, the more we're exclusively concerned with our own happiness, the more we feel dissatisfied. We're always wanting something more, wanting something different, and feel like we're in competition with others, and feel quite dissatisfied with what we have. There's no contentment. We're always craving something else and something better, something more, and feel like there's a limited supply of whatever we want, and we're in competition with others to get that. So we feel isolated and lonely and unhappy. Whereas, paradoxically, the less we're concerned about ourselves alone, in contrast with others, but we recognize our interconnectedness with others, and our interdependence with others, and so we use our life to repay the kindness of others by doing what we can to bring some benefit to the world, without so much concern for ourselves alone, more concern for others. Then, by the way, we receive the most benefit. So that was the idea. And then eliminating the two obstacles for equalizing self and others. Yeah, the one is just, yeah, basically considering oneself more important than others, is the main thing. And then we spoke about how, you know, actually we feel like we're more important because, generally, I don't know if you all do, but many of us do because, or when we feel like we're more important, because we experience our own body and mind in the first person from within them. And so we feel like that's our primary responsibility, and others are not. Others shouldn't need to be responsible for themselves. Um, yeah, and because we don't experience others' happiness and others' suffering first person, then it seems to be something much more remote. Then we habitually consider ours more important. But if we think in an objective way, each individual person, human being, animal, we're all the same in wanting to have well-being and happiness and wanting to be free from suffering. And no one person's is more important than others in an objective way. Yeah. So if we think not from just a perspective of being who we are, but in an objective way about, the state of all, then each person's wish to have happiness and be free from suffering is equally important. And in terms of number, others are infinitely more than us. So collectively, like, the welfare of others is more important than the welfare of ours alone. Is one way to think about it. Okay, and then the actual method. So this is what we're going to work on today. The actual method for equalizing and exchanging self and others. So I'll jump back to that. So again, there's these 5 steps. Equalizing self and others. So this sense of equalizing means generating an equal sense of concern. So whereas ordinarily we're primarily concerned with ourselves, and then a little bit concerned with others, mostly when it could possibly lead to some benefit for us, but maybe sometimes just altruistically. So we want to reduce our kind of disconcern for others, increase our concern for others, and reduce our selfish concern for ourselves, and generate sort of equal concern for self and others. And then among others, equal concern for others without discriminating between friends and enemies. Yeah. And then the next step, so this first step is equalizing self and others. The second step is reflecting on the faults of self-cherishing. So that's what I was encouraging you to do with some of the questions that I posed, looking at the faults of this kind of selfish, egotistical attitude. And then third, contemplating the many good qualities that come from cherishing others. And then fourth, actually exchanging self and others. So this exchanging is where the idea is that, if the ordinary degree of concern we have for ourselves, say, is like 90%, and we have 10% concern for others, we exchange that, right? So we try to shift so that we have 90% concern for others and just 10% concern for ourselves, like that, exchanging the degree of concern we have for self and others. And it leads to meditation on giving and taking, where we actually imagine taking the suffering of others upon ourselves, and we experience it instead of them, and then all of our own good fortune and happiness, offering that to others, and imagining that they experience it instead. So actually exchanging that way, like where we take the suffering of others upon ourselves and give our own happiness and well-being to others. That may sound a little scary, but I'll explain as we go. Okay. So the first, yeah, equalizing self and others. Um, yeah. Mm. So, yeah, I'll just glance through what I've written here and then explain. Seeing how we have a great degree of concern for ourselves and less concern for others. Recognize how ourselves and others are equal in, yeah, so this is the main thing. Where ourselves and others are equal in desiring to have happiness and be free from suffering, and having the potential for happiness and freedom from suffering, and then also having a right to to have happiness and freedom from suffering. So that's one way to reflect. Um, and the way we meditate on it is, I mean, there's different ways, but the main thing is we're not, when we meditate on these things, we're not trying to like brainwash ourselves, just tell ourselves that, oh, this is how it is, and try to just believe that. Because that wouldn't be very effective or authentic or sincere. So the main way to meditate on it is to ask ourselves a question: is this true? Like from the side of Buddhism, there's a statement being made, right? That others and us and others are the same in desiring to have happiness and not have suffering, right? And be free from suffering. So the way to meditate on that is to ask ourselves, is that true? That, and then we begin by, I mean, others are infinite, but begin by thinking about one other person. Um, and then check, is that true with regard to this person? That they're the same as me? In actually, I mean, we begin before that. I mean, most of the people in the course have been, already kind of familiar with this part, but we begin with ourselves, actually. What does it mean for me that I mean, is it true for myself that I want to have happiness and well-being? In the broadest sense of the word, in the most inclusive sense of those words, temporal, immediate well-being and happiness, to for the most long-term and the most kind of profound thing we can imagine in terms of our highest aims or aspirations, the highest sort of sense of well-being we could possibly imagine for ourselves or for others. So is it true, and what does it mean for me that I wish to have happiness and that I wish to be free from suffering? What are the different forms those take? Then once we have a clear understanding of that, then we ask the question, is it true, is that also true for others? Although, others' happiness and suffering may take radically different forms to my own, and their desire to be free from suffering, their desire to have happiness, and their opinions about what that entails may be radically different from my own. But is it fundamentally true of others? And we start with one other person. And then once we have a sense of the answer with regard to that person, then think about another, and then another, and then another, and then, gradually all sentient beings. And then we add to that question, is it true that I have the potential, just as I have the potential for well-being and happiness, others also have that? Is that true? And in that way, so by asking a question, then instead of sort of like trying to push ourselves into believing something, we leave, this open space for us to check and use our own wisdom and our own experience, our own intuition, our own understanding. We give space for our own understanding to develop and I mean, as it really is, right? As whatever we really think and we really feel in relation to these questions. And then that way we kind of grow. So is it true that others have the same potential for these as myself? Is it true that others have the same right to these as myself? So that's how we'll begin the meditation. And then let's see what else says this. Objectively, the importance of any one person's happiness and freedom from suffering are equal to anyone else's, right? So others, right? Others, you know, the importance of others wanting to have happiness and be free from suffering is just the same as mine, and there's many others. And then we should regard others' desire to have happiness and freedom from suffering as equal to our own. Um, yeah, if this is the case for one person, one need to mention all others. So when we think not just as I said before, not just from within our own kind of perspective on the world, but we step outside of ourselves and think in an objective way, then then it becomes easy to see how, others' welfare is equal to our own. Um, yeah. Okay. So that's what we'll meditate on first. Just that. Are you ready? Get ready. Okay. Means get comfortable. If you need to, yeah, wiggle around a little bit or reposition yourself. Yeah, we'll just meditate for, oh, yeah. We have to keep everything short so we fit it all in. But the idea is you get a sense of how to meditate on this, um, and you get a little taste, and then at home, you can spend more time on each of the steps. Okay? So, get, as you scan through your body, check that you're comfortable, and then gather your awareness within. Just breathe naturally. Observe your breath for a few moments. Try to let go of any distracting thoughts or perceptions of things outside. Mm. So begin by, yeah, first checking in with oneself. Is it true that, we can ask this first question, is it true that I fundamentally wish to have well-being and happiness and to be free from suffering? And what does that mean for myself? Also, we can ask ourselves, what is the highest degree of happiness I feel is possible for myself, and the greatest degree of freedom from suffering that I feel is possible? And then imagine one other person, imagine them in front of you, seated in front of you, comfortably. And then ask this question in relation to them. Are they the same as me in fundamentally wishing to have well-being and happiness and wishing to be free from suffering? And then ask these two additional questions. Do they have the same potential as me to be free from suffering and to have happiness? And do they have the same right as me, the same entitlement to be free from suffering and have happiness, to whatever degree that's possible? So do they have the same potential and do they have the same right to these as I do? And then finally, we can ask objectively. If we think objectively, then is my own um, wish to have, or my own project, my own kind of aim to have well-being and happiness, be free from suffering, is it any more important, any more or less important than this other person's? Or we can also ask the question the other way: is their, wish to be free from suffering and have happiness any more or less important than mine? Okay, relax your attention there. We yeah, I need to get on to the next steps now. So hopefully, do you feel like you could meditate on that longer? Not really. Okay. Uh, yeah, please. Hmm. Oh, yeah, that's a nice, uh, yeah, attention. Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so there is, of course, you do want to be happy, but not if not alone, kind of. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Why not? That's great. Yes. Oh, sorry, the online people. Anyway, did you? Sorry. Okay, now we can hear. Go ahead. Hmm. It can be like that. Mm, yeah. I know what you mean. I think, but I mean, I think kind of like, well, to me, when I listen to your question, I feel like, I mean, this observation that, yeah, okay, I feel I have some leisure and happiness today, which I'm really value. And I see this is other person I know who really doesn't and suffering. And if I get involved with trying to help that person, that could really like uh, cause me to suffer a lot. And I'm not sure I want that. That, yeah, that I fully understand. And I mean, to fill out the picture, I mean, there can be a lot of other details that maybe make it more clear, like how that is. But definitely, it could be the case. Like I don't know. Like sometimes I hear a friend talk about how they found a stray dog and decided to take it home and then take care of it and da 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 da. And but then sometimes I see a stray dog and I kind of think, well, should I do what they did? Like, but then it's like, but then I need to go to all these centers and teach. I want to translate. I need to do my own meditation practice. There's all the kinds of other things that I feel are quite meaningful and beneficial to others that I do, that then if I had a stray dog I was taking care of, then I have to feed it and take it to the vet and take it for a walk all the time. And then, where I'm staying, the people, they might not want a dog there. And then it leads to all these other problems. So like, I'm just going to leave it there. Right. So yeah, I mean, we have to use kind of common sense and like I was answering to Laden's question, it's the same kind of consideration. Like, okay, we need a certain degree of leisure and freedom and happiness to be able to practice, and as we, and become kind of develop more and more positive qualities to benefit others. That doesn't mean we need to live like in an ivory tower and just like until we're kind of a glowing sun and kind of fly through the sky or something, and only then we actually help others. But I mean, each of us is different, right? We have to see, like, well, I know there's also the case of one monk I heard of who was meditating on bodhicitta and decided, I need to go help homeless people, and then just left and just lived on the street helping homeless people, right? And that's what, and that maybe is the best thing for him to do. Each of us is different, like how we want to use our lives. But I think the basic, this basic idea, there's some kind of fundamental sameness that where we can see how it's really the best way to use our lives in order to devote them in service to others. But then, there's infinite different kinds and shapes that can take. Just being a parent and raising children is a way of serving others, like, or being an employer, starting a business and employing people is also kind of service to others, right? There's infinite ways. So, yeah. Okay, let's go for the next step in the meditation now. Yeah, which is okay. The faults of self-cherishing. I hope this will be easy, so I won't say much, and we'll meditate for it on in a little bit. Okay, so basically the idea is that, I mean, we can think about in ordinary ways, but maybe I'll discuss first. In the Buddhist view, it's like um, all of the suffering we experience, from birth to sickness, old age, and then the a death, being separated from all that's familiar and all those we love. and it can be, very scary. And then taking rebirth and then experience that again and again. And then all the other kinds of suffering we experience of hunger, of thirst, of not getting what we want, of meeting with situations that we don't want, of falling from high status to low, of, being separated from what's those, we care about again and again. Um, yeah, all the different kinds of sufferings we experience. There being no certainty what's going to happen to us, at any given time. So those all arise, all in short, all the different kind of suffering experiences we have are the product of our own karma we've created, right? um, and mainly non-virtuous karma. And then why did we create non-virtuous karma? Because we act out of afflictive emotions, mainly anger is the heaviest, and then other forms, jealous, and then attachment, jealousy, arrogant pride, and all of those afflictive emotions, those different disturbing emotions, which give rise to negative karma, they all are motivated by a selfish concern. This is the Buddhist view. So, I mean, each of these things we need to check. Is this really seem the best explainer? Does it seem true or not? But we don't have time to do all that checking now. This is all like the background, right? But all these afflictive emotions that they're fundamentally selfish, right? And so, in that way, all the suffering we experience arises from this selfish concern. And selfish concern doesn't necessarily have to mean just with myself alone as an individual. We can also have selfish concern for like my group, my family, or my children, or my race, or my political party. All of those things can be a basis for generating anger and attachment, right? And other afflictive emotions. So that's the kind of the Buddhist view of why the main faults of self-cherishing. But then there's also more just everyday things. Like if, like one way to think about this is think about when we've been around people who are totally self-centered. Like we don't feel like they care about us, right? Whatever way they're relating to us is just ultimately for them to get something for themselves in the end. And so we don't trust them. So if we act like that, then of course that's how other people feel about us, right? And so we don't have good friendships with people. Other people don't trust us. We can't really be very close with people. We always kind of hold people as a distance because, if we're really selfish, we're always trying to kind of use people in a way. Um, yeah, and then when we face problems, big problems, like it's if you don't have close friendships with other people, like really trusting friendships, then you can feel quite lonely. You don't have many people to turn to, and loneliness is a big predictor of unhappiness, right? So if we don't really, because we're social creatures as human beings, we need affectionate connections with other human beings to thrive from the moment we're born up until the time we die. That affectionate connections with others nourishes our soul, nourishes our body, nourishes our mind and our emotions. So when we're very selfish concerned, then we don't have like genuine good connection, loving connections with others. And so that has a detrimental effect on our well-being, physical well-being, on our happiness. So that's another, faults of self-cherishing. And then all the times we've harmed others, when we ourselves generate regret about things we've said or things we've done that were very hurtful to others, all those things which make us feel bad about ourselves, um, those all you have to check, but they all arise from not being overly concerned with just myself alone and not really being sensitive and concerned to others. So in those ways also, these are all faults of yeah, this term self-cherishing is a bit I prefer to like selfish concern or being self-centered, because there is a healthy way, of course, to care about ourselves. But I think you get the idea. So let's meditate on that for 5 minutes. So again, get comfortable in your meditation posture. Take a few deep breaths, relax. Gradually turn your attention inwards and simply observe your breath in a neutral way and kind of let your mind clear. So when we meditate on the faults of selfishness, the first thing to do is just try to identify this attitude. So we can ask ourselves, what is this attitude of this selfish concern, this egotistical, being self-centered attitude? When is it, we can look back at our life and think, when has it arisen very clearly in my own experience, when I've been that way? And then we can also think about other people we know, try to think of an instance when we've been with someone else and we feel they're being completely selfish. So in our own experience of, our own attitudes and then our experience of other people's attitudes, try to identify, a couple or several different examples of this selfish concern. Mm. And then think, is it true that, you know, different sufferings, that attitude itself causes suffering in my own mind when I give rise to it or when I'm around other people who are very selfish? Does that cause suffering in that moment itself when that attitude is present? And then we can also ask, is it true that my afflictive emotions, my instances of anger, of greed, or jealousy, arrogant pride, that all the different afflictive emotions that arise in my experience or that arise in the minds of others, that they arise from this kind of selfish concern and thereby produce negative karma and thereby give rise to different suffering experiences that are the results of the karma. Let's just begin thinking about the first part. Is it true that the afflictive emotions, which propel me to engage in negative karmas, karmic actions, arise from this selfish concern? And then finally, just think in any other ways, you know, that is it true that this selfish attitude gives rise to suffering in other, other ways. Like one way is to think, do all the wars that erupt arise from selfish concern? All the violent crimes that are committed, all the different forms of bigotry or abuse, or, other ways. Is it true this kind of selfish concern gives rise to suffering, even like adultery, for example? Oh, yeah. And what other ways does selfish concern give rise to suffering? What are the other faults of it? Okay, relax your attention there. Uh, See, there's a few things in the chat. I'm gonna check. Oh, okay. Any questions arise about that meditation? Was that quite clear for you? The faults of selfishness? Max, please. Hmm. Be aware of the next speaker. Yes.
Feels like a really deep topic to be thinking about all of my most selfish actions. And I guess I'm wondering what do you say to yourself to not just start beating yourself up and going down that.
Oh. Oh, yeah. That's the secret, Max. No. No, it can be heavy. I mean, it should be heavy, no? Um, yeah, it can be, for sure. Um, well, I mean, I think one of the most important things that to see, um, and that, I think I do tell myself is that I don't have to be like that. I can be different from that, no? Um, I mean, I think it's kind of maybe it's a bit difficult for me to relate to because I mean, it's been a focus of mine for a long time, like to not be selfish, to be less selfish. I think actually in my mid-20s, I went through a period where I really kind of realized I was being really, really self-centered and kind of quite selfish. And I was quite unhappy for a while seeing that and quite concerned. Um, but it became, I mean, kind of, it partly led to me, you know, uh, putting more kind of more time and energy into meditation and Buddhism to try to ameliorate that. That's a big part of why I kind of became, it was like practicing meditation and Buddhism went from being a hobby to being like a main focus of my life because I could see that as a big fault. But um and yeah, but but uh But I think one of the things that helps is just to see that whenever we see faults about ourselves, is to recognize that that's not an inherent part of who we are as a person. Because every aspect of us as a person is impermanent, is changing moment by moment. And there's nothing about our body that's fixed. There's nothing, and then even more so, there's nothing about our mind that is fixed and has to be that way forever. A mind is a creature of habit. We 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 have aspects of our character and personality because we create habits from, in this life and from life to life. And so, but it's not like we don't have free will. There's space where we can kind of change the direction that we're changing. Every moment, every time we make a decision about how to act, what to do, what to think, what to say, we're creating a new habits, right? And so the more we can be deliberate about that, and that's one of the big parts of meditation is just taking time to stop and look at our own life and our own actions and what we're doing and what we see as good and constructive and what we see as not good and we want to change, and being more deliberate about everything that we do. So seeing that it's possible to change, then yeah, that should bring some hope. No, yeah, yes. Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Thank you. Okay. Um, let's continue. Okay. The sound from the other mic is very low. Leah. Okay. Well, where is it? Where is it going into Zoom? You have to. Did you check the audio settings there? In your maybe in your spiritual program coordinator, it's going through that account. Oh, really? Then I should check my audio settings. Yeah, but it should be through your. Um, you know how to check the audio settings, right? Yeah. Just make sure the mic is all the way up. Mine is. But anyway, sorry about that, online brothers and sisters. You can hear me okay though, right? Okay. You can always send a note in the chat if remind me to repeat the questions that were being said. Although we only have 10 more minutes, so I'll just describe the last for today. This is the third step, right? So remember, the first step is trying to generate a more equal concern for others as we have for ourselves. And then the second step we just meditate on and discuss, just thinking of the faults of this selfish attitude where we think exclusively about ourselves and not about others. And then, so this third step is happy. So it's going to be a happy ending. Is to think about the benefits and the good qualities that come from cherishing others. So here I got lazy. I didn't list them. I just quoted this verse by Panchen Yeltsin from Lama Chopa. He says, "The mind that cherishes mothers and places them in bliss is the gateway leading to infinite qualities. Seeing this, I seek your blessings to cherish these transmigratory beings more than my life, even should they rise up as my enemies." Yeah, so there's a lot he packed in here. The first, the mind that cherishes mothers. So why does he say mothers? The idea here is that we think about how others have been kind to us, and one of the foremost examples for most people of someone who's been selflessly kind to them is their mother. So if that's the case for you, then you can think about the kindness of your own mother, and then think, how wonderful it would be to do something to repay her kindness. But it doesn't have to be your mother. It can be your, father, a friend, a partner, anyone, a teacher, anyone. Just think, the idea is to think about people who have been kind to you, and think how wonderful, that is for you, how beneficial it is, and then how wonderful it is to use one's life to repay the kindness of others. And here it doesn't mean just repaying the kindness of people who've been directly kind to you in this life. In this life, there's countless people who've been kind to us that we've never met, like the people who built this building, for instance, the people who bought this land to have this Dharma center, the people who, enable us to have electricity and flowing water, and people who maybe employ us, or I don't know, the people who enable us to have education. Um, who produce entertainment that we enjoy. So all the different things, the people, when I'm here in California, there's so many wonderful public spaces, public state parks and county parks and trails, and all that's, people, because people value that and created that. When I was living in India for a long time, there's hardly anything like that. There's very few public spaces like that. Even in the East Coast, there's a lot less. And that's something I enjoy a lot. So just think about all the different things that you enjoy, and how those come about just in this life, independence upon other sentient beings. Even the food we eat comes about in dependence upon the bees and the insects, the worms, and the birds. And then if you want, you can also include past lives. And then, so he's saying the mind that cherishes mothers, all those who've been kind to us, and places them in bliss, and wishes to and strives to establish them in happiness, in the highest happiness, is the gateway leading to infinite qualities. So it's that altruistic mind that wishes to use our life to benefit others that leads us from happiness to happiness up to full enlightenment. Seeing this, I seek your blessings. So he's making a prayer to the Buddha and his own teachers. I seek your blessings to cherish these transmigratory beings. Transmigratory beings means those who are dying and taking rebirth again and again in different states of existence, different types of rebirth through the force of karma. Thereby they're migrating through different rebirths. So I seek your blessings to cherish these, in short, all sentient beings, more than my life, right? So to cherish others even more than my own life. Of course, we don't actually feel that way now, but we can aspire to care about, have that degree of caring about others, right? That we put either others even before our life. And then it should be what do you say? Unconditional love, unconditional caring about those, even should they rise up as my enemy, is what that means. Even should, so irregardless of how others treat me, that's not the issue. Even if others see me as their enemy and they mistreat me, that so we try to generate this determination. I'm going to try to do whatever I can to benefit others, irregardless of how they treat me. Now, of course, like I said before, we have to be realistic and use common sense, right? Not just make ourselves into a doormat for others or something like that. But this is talking about the degree of and the type of caring we're trying to generate about others, and then thinking about how. I mean, you can check in your own experience. Does that bring happiness in the moment? Does it seem like something that will lead to, a richer and happier life for yourself from life to life? Okay, so now we'll meditate. If you're not already. So we just have about 5 minutes left now. So begin the same way. Scan through your body, gather your awareness within, observe your breath, clear your mind. So again, think of, try to, yeah, look at some examples in your life, in your own experience, in your experience of others, of a very pure, um, selfless concern for others. When you've genuinely and very purely like cherished others, been deeply concerned about the well-being of another person or another group of people in general. Or you can also think about that in terms of others that you know and how they've also had, seeing, observing this attitude, this selfish, selfless um, concern, cherishing the well-being of others. Try to identify what that attitude is. And check, is it beneficial? Does it bring benefit and happiness and well-being in the moment? Mm. And then another way to think about this is think about other people who've been the most kind to us, selflessly kind to us, and how beneficial that was to us. Your mother, a father, grandparent, a friend, and so forth. So think about how much benefit oneself has received from others who are directly kind to us or indirectly as well. And finally, we can think about how is it true that, if the more I generate this selfless concern for others, cherishing the mind, the attitude cherishing others with love and compassion, that it leads, it brings benefit to others. And then, by the way, brings benefit to me in terms of like accumulating positive karma and then leading from happiness to happiness in this and future lives up to enlightenment. Mm. Okay, so relax your attention there and we'll dedicate. Mm. So we can rejoice in whatever virtue, whatever positive energy we've created in this session. We ourselves and all the other participants in the course, those here in person and those online. And then we can, rejoice in all the merit and all the virtuous actions engaged in by the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, our own teachers, and countless other ordinary beings like ourselves throughout the world. So many unsung heroes. So by virtue of all this positive energy gathered together, then we can pray that all beings generate in their hearts more kindness and selfless concern for others. that all beings, yeah, generate the intention to not cause the slightest harm to others, and to engage in whatever benefit, to benefit others in whatever way they can, especially, beginning with we ourselves, that we can shape our lives more and more in this way. And in short, may all sentient beings be free from every form of suffering and the causes of suffering, and of every form of happiness and well-being, up to full enlightenment and the causes of those. May all the wars, especially in Ukraine and Middle East and Gaza, be peacefully resolved, especially the people in Gaza be able to rebuild their lives in peace and prosperity and freedom. And yeah, all the other crises facing the planet, climate destruction and income inequality, and wherever there's oppression and divisiveness, may all solutions to all these various problems quickly be found and implemented, and the world be, and all of the worlds be peaceful, um, happy places to develop one's potential for enlightenment. And especially this Dharma Center, Land of Medicine Buddha, may it be free of every obstacle and have every conducive condition to offering programs like this and others to benefit beings now and far into the future. And then bring to mind any other prayers or dedications you'd like to make. Bring those to mind. So may all those virtuous intentions of yours be accomplished exactly in accordance with your wishes. Okay. Thank you all. And so I encourage you to meditate during the week, as we did in the session. So next week we'll finish this method for equalizing and exchanging self and others. And next week is the last session in this module on Bodhichitta. So you might want to review. Okay.